Hello everyone and welcome to today's workshop. I'm just going to take a moment to share my screen over here. As Carrie said, now today is the first day of phase 2. So thank you for joining us here, wherever you are, from home or in the office. I welcome you. To just kick off today's session, right? And when 2020 began, it was not only a new year, but it was a new decade for many of us. It was a new decade, right, for kind of all of us. And perhaps we were thinking that the future was going to be very bright. But as January, February rolled by, and with COVID-19, right, a lot of us began to be a little bit afraid, of what's going to happen. We didn't know what was going. There was a lot of ups and some downs, and perhaps some of us may feel like that today, right? We kind of feel like we are sinking, we're drowning, like our hands and our feet are tied. This is a picture of Navy SEALs training where they throw them, they call them drown proofing, right? They tie their hands and the legs and they throw them in the pool, and they have to stay there for quite a while. And what happens is the people who struggle, who sink to the bottom, are those who will struggle the most, while the people who remain the most calm and with skill of being able to just gently come down, tap their feet in the bottom, come up for breath, they are the people who are able to survive this test and do it the best. So today's workshop is a little bit about that I want to be able to give you some practical tips for yourselves, for your teams, and for your organizations, depending on the level that you're coming from, of how to be anti-fragile. Now, just a little bit about myself. As a corporate speaker, a behavioral scientist, and an executive coach, what I do is I help people release their potential in life to increase their performance at work and a sense of connection. Ever since COVID-19 began, a lot of my work, 80% of my work, has been revolving around executive coaching. In particular, I coach leaders from Singapore and around the region of how to help them at this point of time manage the stress that they're going through, all right? How to keep them emotionally and logically balanced so that they can make the best decisions at this point of time. And so what I do is live stream coaching, where I look at the past and we want to repair any past trauma in the life of a person. Because if you're listening today, a lot of our behaviors today, sometimes our potential has been restricted because we have experienced some traumas in our life. And if we don't repair those traumas, what happens is that it restricts us from unleashing or releasing more potential in our life. If I ask you today, how much potential are you using in your life from a scale of 0% to 100%? How many percent would you be using? You just have to figure in your head. Because when I ask this across Singapore and around the region, most people tell me they're at 40 to 60%. 40 to 60%, not busyness, we're all 100% busy, but potential. Can you imagine what your life would be if you unlock 5% more this year, or 10% more potential this year? Your life would be completely different. The way you work, the way you relate to people would be different. And so we repair the past and we enter into therapeutic conversations sometimes for that. But as a coach, what I do is I recode the present. What I do is, because our conscious mind is usually about 5 to 6%, and our unconscious mind is 90%. If we do not work with the unconscious mind, a lot of our habits and our behaviors are unconscious. It's become ingrained in us through our upbringing, through our genetics perhaps. And so if we do not recode the present to change the behavior, the mindset, the attitude that you have, you cannot change the future. So when we repair the past, recode the present, we can rewrite the future. And I often ask people, how much is a better future worth to you? In the US, CEOs are willing to pay up to $100,000 a year just to change one behavior in their life, either to eliminate one negative behavior or to create a positive behavior. So today, in this 1 hour, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to share with you a plethora, a kind of a toolkit of things that you can use in your life, right? Because if you just picked up 1 or 2 things and you make it work in your life this year, that shift in behavior or mindset or attitude could have a dramatic effect on your business. Because for CEOs at that level, if they can eliminate one negative behavior and to create one positive behavior, it has a huge spillover effect into their organizations and to the people around them. Just a bit of background of the word anti-fragile. It is a word developed by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. He's an investor and he's also an economist by training. And he runs a fund in the world today, and he came up with this term because he found that there is no word that is the opposite of fragile in the dictionary. And during COVID-19, his company made a 4,000% return on their investment. He is also the author of The Black Swan, which is unexpected events, right, that people couldn't plan. For example, was this pandemic a black swan? He said it wasn't, because there were people who were already saying that it was going to happen. So it was already predictable, right, that it was foreseen in that sense. So Antifragile is a system whereby when things happen to us, there are 3 responses. When we fall apart, that is called the fragile response. When we withstand or endure, that is what we call the resilient response. But when we thrive, this is the anti-fragile response. And so for today's workshop, I'll be sharing tips on how to become anti-fragile, how to become psychologically more resilient for yourselves, your people, and your organization. There are 3 levels of anti-fragility, right? So, for the first half of today's workshop, I would like to share with you more on the self. Because wherever you're coming from, whether you're leading an organization, an SME, a company, whether you're a manager, a director leading a team of people, or whether you're an executive yourself, what I want to be able to do is, for the first half of today's workshop, I want to share with you some therapeutic tools that you can use to learn how to regain your center, learn how to become calm in your life, at the same time later how to tweak your mindset. So the first half of it is therapeutic and practical. And so there are going to be some exercises that I'll be leading you through, and I invite you from the comfort of your home, your office, to join me in it, because these are some techniques that will work for you to reduce the stress in your life. Now, again, why I'm sharing a variety of tools is because some tools work better for different people. Because I've only got 1 hour with you, and you all come from different backgrounds, and I don't know you personally. So in training, the challenge is that it's generalized learning. I have a rough sense of the audience. I've seen some of your profiles, and so I'll make it work according to you. But in coaching, it's individualized learning. So that's why coaching is a lot more effective sometimes. Training is generalized learning, and coaching is individualized learning. So today, I'm going to give you a plethora, and you pick up something that works for you. We're going to focus on the self. Why I'm going to spend half an hour focusing on the self is because, just like in an airplane, if there's an emergency, the oxygen must come out and we be able to breathe. And the instruction is always to put on your own mask first. Because when you put on your own mask, only then would you be able to put on the mask for the people around you, for your loved one. So it is the same concept. So we're going to take care of yourself first. Now, to give a bit of a context of anti-fragility for self, I'm going to talk about 3 things: skill set, mindset, and heart set. In each of this category, I'm going to give you some tips of how, at this point of time, right, the skill is how to learn how to distressify yourself and how to remain calm. That's the skill set that I want to teach you in this webinar. Mindset, I want to give you some resilient exercises where you can firewall your mind to become psychologically resilient, stronger, and eventually become anti-fragile, where you use this opportunity to thrive. And heart set, I want to teach you techniques of how to manage your emotional life. Because if you're not at your emotional best, things is, if you're worried about something today, the world, that's fear, that's an emotion. So it's not just enough to change your mindset, but to also elevate your heart set in your life. So these are the 3 things on individual level that I'm going to teach you that are therapeutic and practical in nature. So the first one that we're going to hit on first is skill set of how to distressify yourself. Just a bit of understanding of how the body works, right? In a very simple manner. We have 2 nervous systems in the body, the parasympathetic system and the sympathetic system. What happens is when the brain and when you perceive a threat, what happens is the sympathetic system gets activated, right? This becomes the fight and flight mode. The blood from the body, the visceral part of the body, goes into hands and feet. Why? To run. The feet, the hands is get ready to fight, right? And your pupils expand, you breathe slowly, and at this point of time, you're not in thinking mode, you're in gut reflex mode. So when you're stressed, it is often not the best time to make critical decisions because we're not in thinking mode, we're in reflex mode. It is useful when we have to escape from an imminent threat. But what happens is, because this situation, in the last few months, we have an invisible, right, to the naked eye enemy, COVID-19. We can see it. And unlike where we used to be able to have a lion in front of us, we could run away, right now, we don't know what to do, right? There are things that we're not sure about, and it's a prolonged exposure. So our sympathetic system is ongoing all the time. And this produces a lot of stress in us. Stress produces cortisol in the body, and cortisol is very damaging to the brain and to the body. What happens is your immune system during this period of time is compromised because the blood goes into the fight and flight mode. what we need to learn is how to activate the parasympathetic system. This is what we call the rest and digest mode in the body. When you're able to do this, what happens is the blood goes back into the middle of the body, your immune system becomes healthier, and you remain more calm. This is when you are able to then make the critical decisions you need at this point of time. So we want to move from fight to flight to rest and digest. There are a few simple practical techniques. And because stress is in the body, right? The cortisol is released in the body. We often feel it in our body. Sometimes we think we're stressful, but you can often feel an ache, a tension somewhere, right? In various parts of our organs. And a lot of times, sometimes we feel it in our gut, especially when we feel afraid. So one simple technique to learn how to distress is to learn how to breathe slowly. If we simply be aware of our breath and breathe slowly, you slowly activate the parasympathetic system. I call it the 5 to 9. Instead of 9 to 5 working day, it's the opposite, 5 to 9. Meaning, we breathe in for 5 seconds, we hold for 2, and we breathe out 9. So I'm going to invite you, wherever you are, in your homes, in your offices, just to join me for 3 simple, slow breaths, wherever you are right now. Just join me as we take it, the first breath together. We breathe in for 5. 1. We hold, and we breathe out 9 seconds. We do it just one more time. We breathe in for 5. We hold for 2, and we breathe out for 9. Now, take a moment and feel yourself in your body now. Can you generally feel a little bit calmer? So sometimes we forget that breath is everything. And this is just a simple technique, but there are more advanced techniques called biofeedback, where you are able to learn how to manage your breath and your resting heart rate. When you're able to lower your resting heart rate, people generally are able to take stress better. But this is just a simple technique for now. The second thing that I would like to teach you is what I call the vagus nerve exercise. The vagus nerve is we have 12 cranial nerves in our bodies. This is the 11th cranial nerve. It is the nerve that is from the stem of our neck all the way to our heart, our lungs, our gut, and to various parts of the body, even the ears. This vagus nerve, right, is called the traveling nerve because it is the nerve that goes throughout the whole body. Now, research has found that when we activate the vagus nerve, and when you have good, what we call vagal tone, people who have stronger vagal tone are psychologically, emotionally more resilient and more balanced in life. That's how they are able to detect it today. And if you're able to activate this nerve in the body, somehow we'll become more calm. So there are different ways to do it. One was to do slow breathing. I'm going to teach you a different technique, right? Like I said, the first half is going to be practical, and I'm going to teach you some mental exercises also. So we're going to start with the body first, right? So what I'm going to invite you to do is, if you could just put your hands with me and put it behind your head just like this, right? So we're going to hold this position now. So this is what we're going to do in a while. Before we do so, can I just invite you to turn your neck to the left and right? I just want you to feel, when you turn your neck to the left and right, which side feels more tense? Usually one of it feels. I just want you to pay attention to which side of your neck feels more tense, the left or the right, because we're going to do a test after this again to check on that. Now that you've seen, okay, maybe it was my right? In my case, my right neck is feeling a little bit more stiff. Put my hands behind the back. And what I'm going to do is, with your eyes, with your face and eyes facing the front of the computer or the phone or the screen that you're looking at right now, I want you to, with your eyes, don't move your head, just move your eyes, and with the eyes, look on your right and try to stretch your eyes to look at your right elbows, okay? Don't strain your eyes too much, but stretch your eyes and look at your right elbows. With your face facing straight, eyes looking at the right elbow. Now do 5 to 9. We're going to breathe in slowly. Hold, and to breathe out. One more time, breathe in. Hold, and breathe out. right? So if your eye is stretching towards your right elbow, just keep your right at the right elbow for a while more. We usually want to do it each for 1 minute, but for the sake of this webinar, I'm going to just cut it out to 30 seconds. Now bring your eyes to the center again. Some of you may feel a little bit lightheaded, and that's okay, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our eyes to the left now. I want you to stretch your eyes to the left and look at your left elbow now. Look with your face straight, just turning the eyes, look at your left elbow. Right, and we do the slow breathing again, 5 to 9. We breathe in for 5, hold for 2, and to breathe out for 9. Let's do it one more time. Breathe in for 5, hold for 2, and to breathe out for 9. Now hold your eyes to the left for just a moment more. Now slowly turn your eyes to the middle again. Put your hands down. Some of you may feel a little bit lightheaded. We normally do it for 1 minute to the left and to the right. Now I want you to turn your neck again now, to the left and to the right. And I want you to feel. Can you feel that if the strain just now was maybe 6 or 7, just by this one simple minute, you can feel that the strain on your neck somehow is more released. So this is a vagus nerve exercise that we can do to make yourself feel more calm. The next thing we can do right now is, if you're seated on a chair, on your table right now, right, I just want you to just put your hands on your lap for a moment and just bring your 50% of your attention to your feet. Wherever you are right now, just bring 50% of your attention to your feet. Can you feel that as you bring your attention to your feet right now, that somehow, just by bringing your attention to your feet, you generally feel more calm and you feel more centered? Qigong has this practice called Zhan Zhuang. This is a simple variation of it that you can do in your room, in your office, wherever you are. Whenever you're feeling stress in your mind, all you can simply do is do the slow breathing, put your hands on your lap, and then bring your attention to your feet, and straight away you're going to feel more calm, just like that. So these are some simple techniques that I can teach you to do over the webinar right now. Now I'm going to teach you one last exercise to make you feel more calm and to release stress. This is called the whole brain posture. Now, what happens is this. We have a left and right hemisphere to the brain. And what happens is when we are stressed, sometimes emotionally, it is the right hemisphere that is activated, right? The logic is the left hemisphere. And what happens is when we are not whole brain, when we are stressed and we're not whole brain, we are not emotionally and logically balanced, we become more worried and we become more fearful. And sometimes we don't make good decisions. So I'm going to teach you what I call the whole brain posture. Now, what we're going to do is, in wherever you are seated right now, I would like you to put your feet, right, either right over left or left over right like this in the picture. So do whichever is most comfortable, right over left or left over right, whichever is most comfortable for you. So that's the first position. The second position is with your hands. So with your feet left over right over left, hold it there. The next thing we're going to do is the hands, right? Just like this. Right over left or left over right. I want you to see, right, when you put your hands left over right over left and do this to clasp it. Left over right, clasp, right over left, clasp. See which one is more comfortable for you. And to either put it on your chest like this or to put it on your feet like this. You have to put it on your lap. So either one, whichever feels most comfortable. Okay? Left over right, right over left. So this is going to be a whole brain position. Now, in this position, this is what I want you to do. I want you to bring to mind a stressful situation that happened in the past, recently perhaps, or today, present, or perhaps in the future. Something that you are worried and stressed about, okay? I want you to bring to mind something that is giving you stress at this point of time. Maybe 6 to 7 upon 10, not too high, possibly 8. So bring to mind the situation that's giving you stress. It could be something at home, it could be something at work, it could be something that happened to you, you had a quarrel or fight with a colleague or a family member and you're feeling stressed about it. So bring the situation to mind, and in this whole brain position with your feet left over right or right over left, and with your hands like this, whether on your chest or on your lap, what we're going to do is we're going to hold this position for 1 minute. And what we're going to do is I want you to think of the situation that is giving you stress in your mind as you hold this position. So I invite you in your homes or offices right now, this is one of the last practical tips, techniques that we're going to do. of how to distressify your body and your mind. So I invite you to close your eyes and to think of the stressful situation. And just hold it in your mind for a while as you are in this position. I invite you to just simply hold your body into this whole brain posture and think of the situations as giving you stress. I'm going to allow about 30 seconds of silence, just so that you can feel. Some of you may feel the stress go up a little bit, and then it'll go down. So we're going to hold this position for about 30 seconds. Slow breathing. 5 to 9. We hold it for one more 5 to 9 breathing. And wherever you are, I invite you to just gently open your eyes and to unclasp your hands and legs, right? And now just simply put your fingertips together like this for 10 seconds, wherever you are. Just put your fingertips like this for 10 seconds with your eyes open, and to just hold this. To just kind of lock this in for a moment. And we're done. Now, I want you to think of the same stressful situation that you thought about. Bring it to mind. Bring it to mind, and can you see now, and can you feel, as you think about the same situation, you don't feel as stressed. Most of the time, you feel it minus by 1 point or 2 points, and for some people, it can go up to 3 points. I do this with people who are traumatized sometimes, right? And when they go through trauma, but when we are in whole brain position, we generally feel more balanced. So this is something that you can do wherever you are. You can simply do it sitting up or lying on the bed. Think of the situation that's giving you stress, be in the whole brain position, because when you're whole brain position, you're emotionally and logically more balanced. Why? We want to be whole brain about our situation in life when we're feeling stressed. So when you're feeling more whole brain about things generally, you're going to be more able and more balanced to make good decisions. There is a lot of research about whole brain synchronicity or whole brain coherence, or people call it heart brain's coherence. And the best managers in the world today are people who can balance that logic, analytical side, and the emotional side. This is what we call the left and right. We call this a whole brain state. And when you're generally more whole brain, you're generally less stressed, and you're going to have a better sense of well-being. Employees who have both these left and right skills are what we call unicorn employees also in the world today. In fact, being a unicorn employee is the most desirable thing today, because you have both strong emotional intelligence, you're emotionally balanced, you can learn how to regulate your emotions. At the same time, you're creative, you're logical and analytical. So you are what we call unicorn employees. So to be one of the most sought-for person today, you want to develop what we call whole brain states or whole brain coherence. Now, as we move from the skill set, we go on to mindset. Mindset is about being at your psychological best, right? There is, we call the biggest, this was in Scientific America, maybe just about a week ago, that the biggest psychological experiment in history is running now. What is this psychological experiment? It's experiment on resilience and antifragility. They predict, in this article, they predict that the financial tsunami will bring about a mental illness tsunami. So the distressifying technique is important, because at this point of time, we need to learn how to calm down, center ourselves, right? And also to be at our psychological best. We want to firewall your mind. So I'm going to share this. One of the most important tips that I can share with you right now is, yes, while you're thinking of a business and we're running about finding for solutions, right? To take care of the business, cash flow, processes, those are important. But what's going to be most important for you is to take care of yourself. So at this point of time, one of the best investments you can make, I truly believe, is in personal development or personal growth. Why? It is this time that you want to grow your person. When you take care of yourself and grow yourself and develop your mindset, your heart set, and your skill set at this point of time, you're going to be a better person for your family, for your colleagues, for the people that you take care of. So this is the time that when we take care of ourselves, we're going to be better for the people around us and the people we take care of. So some resilient exercise to firewall your mind. So firewalling your mind, one very powerful technique, right, it's called reframing. Human beings have the ability to change the narrative of our lives. We call it reframing. In fact, most therapy counseling works that way. That when you were traumatized because of a situation, and when you bring it to someone and they take it out, this memory out, and they help you to change the meaning or the narrative about it, and when they update and you save that memory, you no longer feel that memory is as hurtful perhaps. And the next time you speak it up, you bring it up again, you change the narrative about it, and then you update it and you save it again. Human beings have this ability to change the narrative of our life. We have neuroplasticity, we can learn new things, we can update and change the meaning of the things that we say to ourselves. So narratives is important. The more we retrieve the bad memories and the more we change them, the better we become. So to change it, how can we reframe? So these are a couple of questions to reframe COVID-19, right? One question is this: what decisions are you glad that you made before COVID-19 happened, which are helping you cope better with the situation? So that's one way. We look at the past. What did you do in 2018, 2019, perhaps, right, the month leading up, that before this happened, it helped you cope better with the situation? Can you see that when we ask ourselves this question, we're looking at the things and acknowledging that we did certain things to bring us to a better place today, that we were slightly more prepared. So that's one. The second question is, how is your future self helping you get beyond COVID-19? One looks at the past, one looks at the future. Why? Because your future self is not your present self. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, your future self is going to unlock more potential in your life. You're going to be operating at a different level. Your future self is more vibrant, has a better sense of well-being, is psychologically, emotionally at their best. That is the future self that you want to create for yourself now. This future self, how is it helping you get beyond COVID-19? In some therapeutic conversations that I have with clients, there are various ways we can do it. One way is to ask them to project a future self of them 3 to 5 years from now, in the ideal future that they're leading. And then listening to what the future self is speaking to you right now. What are they advising you? What is your future self saying to you? Advising you, giving you strategies, encouraging you. How is your future self helping you to go beyond COVID-19? So this is an exercise you can do with yourself. Best you can do it with a coach or a friend who can help you to do this and process this together. The next one is called Hard Now, Easy Later. This is another tool or exercise that you can do. So identify 3 things about the current situation that's made your life difficult personally or professionally, right? So we all know that COVID-19 has made things very difficult for ourselves, our businesses, right? And some of us have lost our jobs, some of us have had pay cuts, 30%, 40%, up to 70% pay cut. We are going through difficult times right now. It is what we call the new norm. Right now, 3 things that made our life difficult. These notes will be sent to you and you can practice this afterwards. Because of time, we may not be able to go through all the exercises, but just get the gist of it. Now explain why it made things difficult. Why it made things difficult for your life? Maybe because financially I'm struggling, I cannot take care of my family, I cannot provide for my family at the same level I used to provide, or my business, I'm not able to do this now, perhaps. Now, but the key is in understanding number 3. Identify what these present hardships will make easier in the future. You know, in my work, right, basically COVID-19 has accelerated the future. It has compressed what may have taken many more years to come. The digital transformation that was expected is now compressed in the last few months. It's going to unfold in this next couple of years. It has made things difficult for me, but what it has also accelerated is that because right now as speakers, coaches, and trainers, we are able to be more digital savvy, it will make things easier because in the new normal, people are going to expect that coaching and training is going to be a hybrid of online and in person. So right now it's difficult for me, but it's going to make things easier in the future. So what are the things that is presently difficult but will be easier in the future? Explain why they'll be easier, and based on experience, we're going to create new rules that you want to move forward in. So the hard now, easy later is another tool to reframe the difficulties that you're having. Another tool that you can use is what we call the door close and door open, right? This is an exercise that if you look back in your life, most of us, wherever we are, whether professionally or personally in our life, we have had doors closed to us. Maybe some of us got retrenched in the previous job, some of us had to close a business, some of us had to end a relationship, some of us had doors, most of us had doors closed on us before. But with every door that closed, many a times there are new doors that are there that open. or that we seek to, or that we start to recognize and we open it. So the door close and door open exercise is this. In your life, when you look back, what were some of the doors that were closed in your life? Right? Why it happened, what happened, but very importantly, the question is this: what did you learn from the experience when the door closed? The key thing here is, a lot of times, we talk about failures, right? We don't talk about successes, what did we learn from our success? But oftentimes we can also learn what from our failures. What did we learn from this incident, that the doors were closed? And if you can learn something from that, you can reframe your mind, because there are doors that are closed again today. But with the doors that are closed today, there are doors that are there that we can recognize and we can open. So if we can practice the door close and door open exercise, that's another way to reframe our mind. The last tool for the mindset is what I call the resilient plan. These are the 4 S's, right? Where you look back into your past experience again, something that you did well in. And these are the 4 things we're going to ask you. Number 1, the first S is support. I want you to think, in the last time the doors were closed, or you had a setback, a failure, a challenge, personal, professionally, who were the people that kept you upright? Who was your support? What was your support system like? Because right now, in this situation, we want to build your support system. I call it the star system in your life. You need to have people who believe in you, who support you, who care for you. Who are these people then, and who can they be now? The stronger your support system, the stronger, the more resilient and anti-fragile you're going to become. The next thing was the second S is strategies. What did you do previously that helped you to move forward? In the last few months of coaching, many leaders across Singapore and across the Southeast Asia and Australasia, New Zealand and Australia included, a lot of people felt immobilized by fear. They felt that they couldn't move their hearts, their minds forward. They were kind of stuck, and I had to help them to become unstuck and to remove fear. A lot of them had a sense of loss of confidence. We're going to talk about that later on, how to regain courage and confidence. What are the strategies that help you to move forward? The third S is sagacity. Sagacity is wisdom. What wisdom did you learn that gave you comfort and hope? For some of us, it was something maybe that a mentor, a loved one said to us that encouraged us. And some of us have mottos, have verses that we hold, whether is it from philosophers, business people, even religious people, right? That if you pick up a verse that keeps you anchored, this is a wisdom that helped you then. Perhaps now is the time to retrieve some of this inner wisdom. Or perhaps now you may discover a new wisdom that you can anchor yourself during this period of time. And the last thing is how to seek solutions at this point of time. These are the 4 S's. If you can practice this, if you can fill up this 4, you build up your personal resilience plan. Now, from skill set to mindset, we move to the heart set. A lot of times when we I talk about heart set, right? Because a lot of people just talk about positive mindset. But a lot of times, the reason that keeps us unmotivated or unable to move forward is not a psychological thing. It's an emotional thing. We are feeling low emotions and we could be demotivated, we're afraid. That's an emotion. In our culture, in our education system, we are not taught to process our emotions very well. And if we learn how to do this for ourselves and for our people and for our family members, we're going to be more resilient and anti-fragile. We want to be at our, what I call, emotional best. So to do that, we need to learn discipline. It is the discipline of creating positive emotions in your life. I'm not saying to ignore the negative ones. We have to acknowledge it, but we have to process it. Now, this is a Hawkins scale that talks about low negative emotions to positive. Now, most of us operate at this point of time, perhaps because we're emotionally down and low, we are low. Now, to give you a sense, right? If I ask you, most morning when you wake up today, from a scale of 1 to 10, emotional well-being, heart set, right? Where 1 is depressed or 0 is depressed, and 10, you are vibrant, you're happy, you're at your peak emotionally. Most days when you wake up today, what is your default emotional heart set? What is your emotional set point? Most people wake up between 4 to 6, sometimes even lower than that. And that's your emotional set point. We want to bring it up because if you are not operating at a 7 or 8 at this point of time, it becomes very difficult to make good decisions in our lives. We want to have confidence and courage during this time because if as an entrepreneur, as a business person, If you lose your confidence and courage at this point of time, you lose your superpower. But if you still manage to retain your confidence and courage even though during difficult time, if you have a strong heart set during this period of time, if you're emotionally balanced and strong, somehow you're going to find a way to thrive. You're going to find a way to come out of this, to make money again. You're not going to lose heart. That's how courage and confidence is so important for our heart set. So how do you practice heart set in this period of time? Some basic tips, SHED. The first is sleep. We need to sleep well. Now, when I meet my coaches, I often ask them, one of my first questions is, how is the sleep? Why? Because I can give you the best therapy, I can give you the best medicine out there, but if you don't have enough sleep, if you don't fix your sleep, everything just falls. So the most important thing, in order to have confidence and courage during this period of time, is to fix your sleep. And we need enough sleep. And we need stage 3 and stage 4 because that's the sleep that repairs the body. You need to upgrade your sleep tech. Your mattress, your sheets, you need to make sure that it is close, there's not much lights in your room, and you want to prepare to sleep well, not be exposed to too much blue lights before you sleep from your phones, from your screen, and so on. Some people smell lavender oil, they use lavender oil, they drink lavender tea, they prepare themselves to sleep well because the sleep is restorative and healing. So the first thing is fix your sleep if you're not doing well. The second is hydration. We want to make sure that we're well hydrated all the time. During this period of time, you want to reduce the alcohol intake as much as possible, perhaps, right? But to drink well. Exercise. Why is exercise important? Is because when you're stressed, your body has cortisol, and cortisol is metabolized when we move our bodies. And last, diet. What kind of diet, right, to eat? One of the things I want to share is what I call the microbiome diet. The microbiome diet focuses, we now understand that the brain and the gut is very much connected. We have a lot of neurons in the brain. The second most neurons in the body is in our stomach, in our gut. So the gut is actually also a thinking system, right? The heart have neurites. They say that the heart can think of its own. So our heart, our mind, our heart, and our gut, if these 3 things we take care of, we will generally be more whole brain about ourselves. For every one signal that the brain sends to the gut's 9 sends 9 up back. So the microbiome diet is we want to eat a diet that will foster a healthy gut, a strong gut, a resilient gut, right? And to do that, there are ways that we can do it. After this, if you go and Google, right, 10 best foods for prebiotics or probiotics, they're going to show you root vegetables because different root vegetables will feed the good bacteria in the body and make your gut stronger. And then also what you want to be doing is things like fermented food. Right. Now, the simple formula is to what I call up your dose. D-O-S-E. D stands for dopamine, O is for oxytocin, S is for serotonin, and E is for endorphin. D-O-S-E. Dopamine is for a sense of motivation. Oxytocin is connection and love. Serotonin is for courage. And endorphin is to relieve stress. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. You can do this, you can get a mixture of them by exercising, being exposed to sunlight, eating good foods, probiotics, listening to music, relaxation, and so on. You want to be able to generate all these 4 important neurotransmitters in the bodies because the more you have this, the more stronger and more courageous you're going to feel. So don't just work on your mindset, work on your gut. Think about it. When you feel fear, don't you feel it in your gut sometimes? The stronger your gut is, generally, the healthier you're going to become, and the more psychologically reasoned you're going to become also. Now, how to work on this is also to learn how to try softer. The heart set is that often people say, Nick, we need to try harder. But what I'd like to teach you is to learn how to try softer. Learn how to try softer. What to try softer? One of the techniques is what we call mindful self-compassion. To be mindful self-compassion is, the notes I'm going to share with you later on is, I want you to bring to mind something that is giving you stress or worry. Like what we did earlier on, right? But there are 2 things that we are going to be able to do in order to, let me just check. I saw that my microphone's, okay. Carrie, let me know whether you're still able to hear me. I just received a notice that.
I can hear you.
Okay. Mindful self-compassion. I'm going to teach you a simple technique that you can feel calm right away. This is a technique that is taught for people who are traumatized, post-traumatic stress disorder, or people who came back from the wars. When they are anxious, they cannot control their body. So one simple technique is called the self-holding posture. One arm hold below one armpit and the other hold above your shoulder. Now I want you to just try this with me. This is another somatic exercise, a body exercise. One hand below the armpit and one hand on your shoulder. Now I just want you to feel, as you hold yourself this way, don't you feel different? Don't you feel more grounded? This is one of the techniques that we teach to people who have post-traumatic stress disorder. When they lose control of their body and when they self-hold, somehow they become back present. So this is one technique. The next one is called smiling into your heart, right? Where later on, right, we won't go through the whole thing, but in a mindful self-compassion exercise, where we go through the exercise to bring the situation to mind, to hold yourself and to smile into your heart. With your eyes closed, imagine yourself smiling into your heart. And if you just do that for a moment, smiling into your heart, you're just generally going to feel a difference. So if we combine these two techniques with mindful self-compassion, right, we will be able to do this. In mindful self-compassion, we often will take a moment and say, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. You can do your self-holding technique, and then you say to yourself, may I feel safe. May I be strong. May I be kind to myself. May I endure this pain safely. May I find peace in my heart. As you say these words to yourself, smile into your heart, and you are going to feel psychologically, emotionally different. The science behind mindful self-compassion is very, very strong. In fact, in the US, they find that mindful self-compassion is more powerful than self-esteem, because self-esteem only works when things are going well, but self-compassion works when things are difficult. So instead of trying harder, try softer. We're going to go into the teams. I have about 10-15 minutes more. And so I'm going to spend some time on how to build stronger teams, anti-fragile teams, and anti-fragile organizations. This is the State of Remote Report 2020. This is the latest one that came out this year. Most of us have been working from home the last few months and may continue to do so. These are the biggest struggle: the lack of collaboration, loneliness, and not being able to unplug. This is how our people are feeling when they're working from home remotely. So three things that I want to share. Number one, to take, just as we take our physical temperature sometimes, right, to know whether we're not well, and we have to report in some of our organizations, how about our mental and emotional temperature taking? What do I mean? Right, we want to be able to get our people to express their emotions, to feel safe to do so. And to do so, one simple method is when we do a check-in with our teammates once a week, perhaps, one of the ways to help them to express themselves emotionally is to ask them, what was your highlight and lowlight this past week? And allow people to share. Highlights is positive emotions and lowlight was negative. We want to be able to help our people to recognize that in a week, even in this situation, we can have highlights and lowlights. Highlights are things that we're grateful for, and gratitude is an important exercise to generate a sense of well-being in our life, and lowlights to recognize when we weren't doing so well. If we help our people to see their emotions. If you look at this chart right now, and I ask you to pick your emotions, how are you feeling right now? Right, to do an emotional check-in. A lot of times you say, but okay lah, we're fine. But okay and fine is not emotional words. We want to help our people to express themselves emotionally. Why that is important is because if they are feeling negative emotions, this is how they may say, Nick, I may feel anxiety. This is how we think we feel. But to be honest, this is how we actually feel. Most of the time, we have one primary emotion and we have some secondary emotions. And we got many little secondary ones up there. We want to be able to recognize and to acknowledge them, because when we can name our emotions, we can tame it. So emotional, good bosses allow the people to express themselves emotionally. Now, it's often not easy sometimes because we may not be comfortable listening to what our people may say. But if you can practice this and help them to process it, they're going to be much more grounded. Sometimes to just help them make sense of how they're thinking, how they're feeling, we can often ask them at the end of the meeting, at the end of today's session or today's meeting, in one word, how are you feeling? In one line, what are you thinking? Just to know where they are. So just as we check our physical temperature, we also want to check the mental and emotional temperature of our people. How do you avoid work from home burnout in our people? This is some simple thing, because you see, right now, working from home, There's no work-life balance. It's a work-life blend, right? We don't live in the physical world, nor do we live in the digital world. We live in the phygital world, where the physical and digital worlds combine. And most of us perhaps feel like we're burning at both ends, where work and life, you know, and we don't know how much more kind of we have, isn't it? So one simple technique is, a few strategies is this. If you're managing a team remotely, help them to embrace a routine and normal hours as much as possible, as they would at work. Embrace a routine, right? One simple thing that I do a couple of times a week is this, because I have a friend that I call in the morning, once or twice a week, and we have coffee chat in the morning. With our coffee, we can just have a simple catch up, chit chat, right? And that morning catch up that I have with him, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes even half an hour, just helps me to have a sense of routine and normalcy in my life. Lunch hours, take it if you need it. If it's possible, use the time to distress, don't look at too much news. At the end of the day, have to find a way to close the day. So help your team embrace normalcy and a routine. Also, to help them not have burnout, help them to prioritize their work. If you're managing a team, there are so many priorities and everything is important. Many urgent things, but is it urgent and important? Or maybe everything is. But when people have too many urgent and important things, they feel overwhelmed. As a leader, you have to kind of be like a traffic officer, right? Where you have to direct the traffic, which is more important for now. Maybe today, focus on this. So what we want to do is to help our people plan their work to be more productive and to be able to focus on what is the most important one at this point of time. Sometimes we take it for granted that people know how to do it, but they may not necessarily know how to do it. If they learn to prioritize and manage it, they have a better chance of not being burned out. Now, here's another technique to be able to help us to not burn out. At the end of the day, this is taught by Cal Newport. He wrote the book Deep Work. He said that at the end of the workday, because he's an entrepreneur, he writes books, he works on himself. People like us, as a trainer, as a speaker, as a coach, we can work the whole day, even before work from home. Well, I work from home most of the time, and this is my home office. But the thing is that we do not know when work ends. So for your people, we need to have a shutdown ritual. Meaning, this is kind of what I do sometimes at the end of the day. At the end of the day, when I look at all my to-do lists that I've done, I've ticked it off, I plan for work for tomorrow, and then as I close my computer, I stand up and I say to myself, right, power off. That's my shutdown ritual. Power off, power shut down, right, or I'm out of here. You gotta find a shutdown ritual. Help you and your team establish a shutdown ritual so that they can have a psychological demarcation of this is the end of work and I'm going to go back into my life. The thing is this, if people keep working without resting, if they are always working and they're all not in recovery mode, chances are they're not going to be as productive and they're not going to be as sharp. Now, how to foster a sense of belonging in team? Here are some simple techniques, right? Some of the things I've heard that works for people is they do Zoom lunches, MS Team, right, with coffee, but with interesting chit-chat topics. So sometimes we just want to come up with interesting things to talk about. And some of them eat together, talk, have coffee kind of over, just to have a sense of community online. I've heard of people where they have like office hour, where every week for between a couple of hours, they will just keep the computers on with one another and they just say hello to one another. And for a couple of hours, people then can just come in to check in with one another. I don't really know exactly how it works, but some leaders say it works for them. Now, one way that we can do it is to outfit them with corporate merchandise, meaning, once a week, right, do we have a team t-shirt, a shirt? We have those team building activities. We used to have, have those things that we design for our yearly kickoffs and conferences and so on. Once a week, once in a while, do we have the chance to wear that, right? Or do we send them things that remind them of the organization, not so much of work, but that the organization, right, is there with them and for them. How about playing online games and activities together? Not all the time, right, do we just meet to chit-chat, have lunch, but we can actually play online activities and games together. Just one simple thing that we can do right now. One of the games that I play in my workshop, right, is this. Can you imagine? I'm going to mouth a word, okay, a food in Singapore and see whether you're able to guess the food. Okay, so here goes. You got a word? Yeah, if some of you want to chat, you can try to type out the answer. Right, you can play online. The word was chili crab. If everyone can go around, right, and kind of mouth a word and we try to guess with one another, we can kind of make it to a game. The idea is to have fun online together when we meet sometimes. We can take times to create quizzes, something that is funny or something to laugh about. And perhaps one of the last things we can do is to create a secret Santa. You know, during this circuit breaker and in phase one of the things that I was very pleasantly surprised was where people sent me and my family, right, surprises, whether food or gifts and things like that. And we in turn have also sent it to people. And this thing just foster this sense of, you know, gratefulness and sense of connection sometimes with people. Last 5 minutes, I'm going to focusing on the organization. How can we build anti-fragility in our organization? So number one, how to foster AQ. You know what AQ is? AQ was what I shared with you earlier on, right? Last year, if you came for the SCCCI conference, I spoke on adaptability quotient. A few months ago, I spoke on it for Skill Future, and it was SSG and WSG, and it was online because it was already at the onset of COVID already. So it was they recorded me, and I spoke on AQ for their people. Now, what we spoke about earlier on, skill set, mindset, and heart set. If you combine all those three things, that's AQ, right? Adaptability means I have the skill set at this point of time to change and to do what I need to do. I have the mindset and the heart set. Think about it. If your skill set, right, is 7 upon 10 or 8 upon 10 and you're very strong, right, but your mindset is 2 or 3, very low, 7 times 3, you're only at 21% of a potential. Can you see that? Some people got very strong mindset, very confident, 9 upon 10, skill set 1. That's called American Idol. They believe they're going to become the next American Idol, but they cannot sing, right? So what we want to do is at this point of time, we want to be able to upgrade the skill set, the mindset, and the heart set of our people. If we do it strongly together, our people are going to be at their best. So what kind of skill set do we need to look at it from the organization? LinkedIn earlier in the year talked about the top skills, soft skills and hard skills that we need as most organizations need. If you look at the top 5, can you see that adaptability is number 4? In fact, emotional intelligence, heart set is there, number 5. So these are the soft skills that we're going to need and some of the hard skills. So you're going to need to look at your organizations. What are some of the hard and soft skills that you need most currently in your business? That if you have it, you will give your people that edge, right? One of the skills that you're going to be able to need also is what I call understand the pyramid of value. You know, times have changed. People, there are things that were good, that were must have, maybe now it's only good to have. So we need to relook at our offering of our product and services, right? And understand that for in this current period of time, most people are looking for things that are functional, maybe a little bit emotional. Maybe people are not looking for things that are aspirational as much as possible already. So when you understand the pyramid of values of what our customers are looking for, that skill to be able to understand, that's important. The next skill that you're going to need is how to learn how to what I call brand your marketing. I learned this from Andrew Chow, a good friend of mine. He said that during normal times, you market your brand. But the skill set that you're going to need during COVID-19, this period of time, right, is to learn how to brand our marketing. Companies, organizations, businesses that learn how to brand our marketing during this period will have a better chance of fostering that sense of community and connection with your clients. So don't just market your brand at this point of time, learn how to brand your marketing. Those are the skills that you're going to need to adapt during this period of time. Mindset. What is the mindset that you're going to need to have at this point of time is this: business not as usual. We want to tell our people it is not business as usual. In fact, we're going to be on experiment mode on most times, right? I've heard some good success stories from some of the SMEs in Singapore about how the bosses themselves, right, have to come down, get their hands and feet dirty, you know, do things, change things overnight, right, to repivot their business in such a way to recreate, to save the jobs and livelihood of the people. They're in experiment mode. Business not as usual. We're going to have to help people to really move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And you know what? When we do it in experiment mode, there are going to be things that don't work. But we want to have a culture where we're not going to blame people. Next thing, last thing, what kind of heart set, right? How to build the heart set of my organization. These are the emotional and well-being programs that you may want to consider for your organization, depending on the size of your organization. If it's small, medium, or if it's larger. Most larger organizations today have employed certain groups out there to provide counseling service to their staff. Why? Because yes, if I take care of my people psychologically, emotionally at this point of time, they will also be able to be in a better state to take care of the business or to adapt and to change. So there are many programs, well-being programs and organizations out there. Depending on your size, you likely want to find something that fits for your organization need. For smaller organizations or smaller teams, perhaps you can put a few counselors on retainer. For myself, I have a working relationship with Benjamin Barker. Benjamin Barker, my brother Damien Tyler, is the COO of Benjamin Barker, and I'm the in-house performance coach, and I'm also the in-house therapist. And I help them, and I work with everyone in the organization, from the front line all the way to the C-suite, to take care of the psychological and emotional well-being. I take care of them. I take care of a few organizations in Singapore and around the region. And during this period of time when people most need it, this is how we show that we're taking care of our people. Now, I'm going to end this. I'm going to end in a couple of minutes. Why this is very important is because when we're going through trauma, and we're all going through some kind of a trauma right now, we often need what we call an emphatic witness, someone who understands us, who listens to us, right, who is there for us. And people who have an emphatic witness, someone, a friend, a partner who journeys alongside with them, they often have the best chance of recovering, of becoming resilient, becoming anti-fragile, to learn how to thrive in this situation. My last exercise for all of us today, right, to see whether this makes sense, is this. Now, I call it the gratitude CV or the gratitude bio. Most of us have a bio, right? We talk about what we've done in life, what we've achieved in our life, where we have gone, where we have studied, the certificates we have. But have you thought of doing a gratitude bio or CV in your life before? What do I mean? Think back in your life. Who are the people that you're grateful for in your life, that have helped you in your life to bring you where you are? Who were those who opened doors, supported you, helped you? That's called a gratitude CV, a gratitude bio. Now, let me show you how this can work in your life. Just a simple exercise, and this is the last exercise for today. I want you to think of someone that you're grateful for in your life. It could be a partner, it could be a colleague, it could be a friend. I just want you to think of someone that you're grateful for in your life. Can you do that with me? Do you have this person? Right, just one person. Who are you grateful for in your life? You have it? Now, I want you to think, what would your life be without this person? Can you feel already, straight away in your heart, the sense of gratitude? This is what I mean. So cultivating this sense of gratitude in our heart, cultivating confidence, courage, psychological resilience, emotionally, psychologically balance, anti-fragility. If we create this in our lives, right, we're going to be stronger. In the 1980s, Chernobyl there was a meltdown of a nuclear reactor. There was, and what happened was, this was one of the biggest nuclear disasters in the world. Many people who were nearby suffered from radiation poisoning. A lot of them who were nearby, who were at the scene itself, a lot of them died. And right now, maybe we're going through something like Chernobyl. Perhaps we're going through like a financial meltdown, a crisis, a nuclear reactor, right, has gone off. A bomb has gone off in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in our business, you know, in our country, in the world today. Maybe it looks like that today. You know, and what happened was, after Chernobyl, many people said that the whole place is going to be inhabitable. No living thing will be able to live, right, in the area of Chernobyl for hundreds of years. But you know what? Not long after that, right, they found that while nobody went back to Chernobyl, a lot of animals started to go back. The wildlife started to go back somehow. Even though people predicted that there will be no life that can be sustained for hundreds of years, right? In a few years, wildlife came back. What this shows is that even when in the deepest and the darkest of explosion or implosions in our life, that life finds a way. I feel that human beings are the most resilient, most adaptive creatures in the world today. We are going through these hard times. It has been forced upon us, but life finds a way. And if we build the anti-fragility in our heart for ourselves and the people around us, we will not just endure or withstand, we will thrive. And so if you want to if you found that today's workshop benefited you, we're going to share the notes with you. But if you find that yourself, whether for yourself or your organizations, to repair the past, whether you want to recode the present and you want to rewrite the future, I believe that there are many ways to do so. And I hope that if you learn something today that can help to repair the past or to recode something about you right now, that you can also write a new future for yourself. So thank you very much. My name is Nick Jarvis Tan. I end my presentation here, and we're going to take some time for Q&A. Over to you, Carrie.
Thank you very much, Nick. So before we proceed with the Q&A session, we would like to invite participants to take part in our annual business survey so that we can find out more about the challenges that the SMEs are facing and the help that they need during this period. So the results will be shared with the relevant government agencies for reference. And now you can find the QR code to the survey on your screen now. Okay, so while we are waiting for questions to come in, let me just get the ball rolling. So for example, Nick, what if I want to get a coach or counselor or a therapist for myself? What do you think is one of the most important criteria?
Okay, Carrie, can you hear me? Is my voice clear? Yeah, I had to take out my mic because something wasn't working. So the question is, right, how do we find whether to find a good coach, a counselor, or therapist, right, if we want to help ourselves?
That's
One
right.
of the important criteria that you need to be to find for someone is to have good rapport. You must have good chemistry and rapport with this person. Whether it's a coach, a counselor, or therapist, what happens is most of the time when you meet with them, you often have an intake session. The intake session is the first session to see whether there is a kind of a chemistry, a kind of a match, and is there a good rapport? Because they found that when you have a positive rapport with your coach, your counselor, or your therapist, the effectiveness of the support is much stronger. So it's okay to check in with a few people until you find someone that you're most comfortable with, that you feel most relaxed with, and that will often, that is the most important criteria in looking for a coach, a counselor, or a therapist.
Okay, great, thanks. I hope you found it useful when you're looking for a therapist. Okay, I see some interesting questions coming in. So we have an attendee who's asking, what are some practical tips that I can help my employees prevent burnout during this period?
To prevent burnout during, I mean, I shared a few earlier on, right? I mean, first thing is, you know, we hopefully as leaders, as managers, we are not the one that's burning them out too much also, loading too much work on them. I understand the reality of the situation. A lot of people right now, because of the times, we have to double up. We have to do a lot more things. But one of the key things is really to check in with them, to show care and concern for them. And if they need some support and help, right? If you find, and you know, during this period of time, what has happened is, I've coached people who had lost loved one during this period of time. So not only was the jobs more difficult, they actually went through a family loss. People like them do need more psychological and emotional support and help and understanding during this period of time. So if you can find a coach, a counselor, or therapist that can help them, that would be to help them on individual level, to help them on the work, to make sure that they have to help them prioritize their work. And if they're the kind of person that have a very strong work ethics and during this period of time they are giving the 101, 120, 110%, we may at times have to help them to slow down. Yeah. So as bosses, we need to sometimes do that for our people. And if we can do that well, the thing is this period of time, right, we need, you know, they say, in Chinese, there's a saying, we really need to learn how to rest and recover during this period of time, psychologically, emotionally, and from a professional point of view also. We just need sometimes to decompress. And only when we recover well can we be able to then come and work better. So these are some ways that we can manage so that our people don't get too burnt out.
Understand. Okay, so this is somewhat related to the earlier question. So how can we get a sense of whether a person is adaptable? Or conversely, how do we actually know whether our fellow colleagues are not coping well? So what kind of telltale signs can we look out for?
Sorry, could you just repeat a bit again, right?
Okay, so how do we get to know whether a person is adaptable during this time? And conversely, how do we know whether the person is not doing well? So are there any obvious telltale signs that we can look out for?
Okay, so how a person is adaptable, right? I think as leaders, we must be aware of who in our who in our team can manage stress well and who cannot manage stress well. I think most of us as leaders, right, must be able to have a sense of that at least. Who are those who are able to manage stress and those who are able to not. Remember, for being adaptable, remember there are three things: skill set, mindset, and heart set. We want to be able to see, right, in terms of how psychologically resilient is this person, generally from a scale of 1 to 10. We all roughly have a sense of our people, hopefully. And we can have a sense of it. And what is that emotional state? How emotionally stable and balanced they are. Now, if they are lower, right, and you may say, Nick, so these people, from a scale of 1 to 10, they are lower. They have a lot of room for improvement in terms of mindset and heart set, and maybe even skill set, because there are a lot of new things that we need to change right now, and we need to send people for further training, isn't it? I've heard so much stories of companies sending training because of the JSS. They've had so much training over the last few months, right? It's like wave after wave, and sometimes too much training can also cause a lot of stress, okay? You need to ask, skill set, mindset, and heart set. What is the room for improvement? Maybe there's a lot of room for improvement, right? The question you need to ask yourself is this: what is their potential for improvement in this area? So this person adaptable, we need to change the skill set. There's a lot of room for improvement, but what is the potential for improvement? Meaning, if I send this person for training, what is the likelihood of success? Low, middle, or high? If it's middle or high, send the person for training because the person is adaptable. Same for the mindset. If you give the person counseling, right, what is the potential that this person will be able to benefit from it? Low, middle, or high? Middle or high, then give the intervention. So the difference is there's a lot of room for improvement in skill set, mindset, and heart set. You need to ask yourself, but what is the potential for improvement in those areas for my people? So when you can be honest with yourself, you can then tell who is likely has a better shot of being adaptable versus who are not.
Understand. Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, we have a question from Sebastian. He's asking how not to bring stress back home. So is there any quick way to pull ourselves from the stress from work?
Hi, Sebastian. Right. Thanks for joining and thank you for your question. How not to bring stress home? It's tough, right? Because we live especially in this period of time where we have to do more work, in fact. What I'd like you to do, especially, right, is if I have a hard day at work, this is usually my advice for men and women, right? If a hard day at work, maybe it was the work itself or maybe a challenge with a colleague, you don't want to go back straight away. Now, I understand because right now, because of social distancing, but in phase 2, we are able to go out a little bit more. We need to have what I call, right, you need to have a decompressing time when you go back. For me, what I usually do is I usually go to the rooftop and I spend about 15 minutes, right, just processing my day, right? Going to do some of the techniques that I shared with you. There are many more different techniques that you can do, that you gotta find one that works for you. And I asked myself, what was my highlight and lowlight for the day? And I built a sense of gratitude in my life. Because if I don't decompress myself, it's just like in space. If you know from space, right, to come back into the International Space Shuttle, right, there's a decompression chamber. If you don't decompress, what happens if you go in, right, you're going to explode. So there's no quick way per se to pull yourself up from stress, but you want to create a decompression ritual or routine in your life. Sometimes I used to tell people, sometimes it's as simple as going to the shopping center, right, and buying something to just relax. Buying their favorite food. You're just doing something so that when you go home, you are better for your family. Because if you are stressed, you're worried, and then you don't decompress and we come home, right, then our spouse, our children, or our family members see us in a state, right, we will trigger each other negatively, and then there's a vicious cycle. So you want to create a decompression ritual that works well for you, Sebastian. You could be spending some time outside before work, taking a moment to decompress, a meditation, a relaxation technique, right? That can work. So you got to find something that works for you. Sebastian, I hope that is useful. Yeah.
I think that's important because if not, we'll stress our family out. So that's not a good thing. Okay, so next question we have from Adeline. So Adeline asks, if we have identified certain triggers that result in a worse emotional mental state, what kind of exercises can we do to decrease the potency of such triggers and eliminate them eventually?
It really depends on identify certain triggers that result in a worse emotional. So when you say triggers, right, is it people or is it situation? I'm guessing it could be a little bit of both. What exercises can you do to decrease? what I'm sharing with you today are therapeutic techniques that can usually be used to address, I would say, emotional challenges, right, or psychological that are intensity about 4 to 5 to 6 upon 10. We don't, if you, anything that's about 7 or 8 or 9, usually 8 or 9, you really want to seek professional help already. So there's no one simple exercise that can cure all, but if you can learn, if you can simply do the whole brain posture, that's one. There are 15 different whole brain postures. I just shared with you one today on here, right? That if you can do to calm yourself down, because you want your left and right hemisphere to be in sync. When we are in this whole brain state, when we are psychologically, emotionally more balanced and congruent, we're generally feeling less stress. So there's no one simple exercise that can eliminate them all, but the whole brain posture is one that can do that quite well, right? The other way is if you also, in fact, it works with children also. In fact, if you have young children and they have difficulty with home-based learning and so on, right now we're going to go back to school. But what I make my children do is before they study, before they practice, right, we all sit for a couple of minutes in the whole brain position just to generally calm yourself down. And then when you come out from that position, you are generally more whole brain and you can study and pay attention and you are generally more focused. So there's no one simple technique that can cure all, but the whole brain technique is one exercise that you can possibly do to relieve stress for yourself, okay? If you are doing it for someone and practicing it with someone, it really depends, right? Adeline, if you're happy, you have my email over there. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm happy to understand a bit of the background and I can share with you something that maybe is more specific to the situation that you're in. Because it is a very general group, there are 93 people, there were 100 over people in this group, and so not every technique works for everyone. So it's not a cop-out, but if I can understand your background, I will share with you something that you can use in your situation, right? When I understand the triggers a little bit better. Yeah.
Okay, so Adeline, maybe you might want to reach out to Nick directly. Okay, so the next question, this attendee says, because of COVID-19, I need to lay off some of my staff and my team now is having a very low morale. So she can sense that they're very worried about the future. So what do you think this attendee can do to get them together again?
Okay, so you're talking about building trust again, right? In this group, because when you, I mean, this is a tough call. I think last month alone, 3,000 companies in Singapore shut down. That's a very high number, right? And so, and laying off is something that it's going to be expected. So what happened is that people are worried, people are fearful, they are worried for their jobs, their livelihood. So if you look at Maslow hierarchy, the first level is physiological needs, the second level is safety. They may feel unsafe and they feel that their livelihood is being threatened. What can you do to get them together again? It's not a quick fix, it is a slow fix. What we need is 3 T's. We need to be transparent, we need to tell the truth, and we need to build trust again. These are the 3 things that we're going to need at this point of time, meaning, you know, you got to be honest with them and say, hey, you know what, we lay people off because this is the transparent, this is where the company has gone through, this is what is happening, and this is why we have to do it. If you are transparent with them, and can you be truthful with them that we do not, that in moving forward, we are not going to be sure 100% whether everybody's still going to have their job. The truth is we don't know. We're going to try our best. We're going to do whatever it takes, right? So that we can slowly build the trust again. So there is no quick fix for this anonymous attendee. You likely need to rebuild trust by being transparent and being truthful with people. Yeah. So it's not a quick fix. And if you can do this bit by bit, then only then can you get the group. Now, but perhaps you also want to understand, right, in this whole group, there are sometimes 1 or 2 people who are more influential, and you want to be able to work with these people who are more influential in the team to be able to help them to also see and to recognize the challenges and the difficulties of the organization, because you're going to need people who are kind of understand the reality, but they want to be champions for you also. So if there are people that you know, right, who are more reasonably balanced and they can recognize both sides of the coins, then you want to win them over also. So transparency, truthfulness, and trust. This is how you are going to be able to rebuild the team. And it's going to take time. It's not a quick fix, it's a slow fix. Yeah.
Understand. Okay, so for another question, this attendee is asking, so under such circumstances, it is an appropriate time for the internal HR to step up. So is there anything that you can recommend that HR can do or should potentially do?
Sorry, would you just repeat that, Carrie, again?
So under such circumstances, it is now an appropriate time for the internal HR to step up. So is there any recommendation on what the HR can or potentially can do?
I think I like to believe that a lot of HR are doing their best that they can right now. If our HR persons are listening to out there, I just want to say, thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it is not an easy position to be in. What can you do right now? It is really managing the human resource. Right now, I think a lot of HRs is busy looking at the training needs of the company, right? Sending a lot of people for training, but pay attention to the emotional and well-being part of your people, because you likely want to identify, and this is to answer, right? There's one question from Enlin, how can we tell we have reached a point of burnout? Okay, so I'm going to dovetail these two things together. You want to be able to recognize who are the people who are more vulnerable in your organization. In some organizations that I work with, they came up with what the pay cuts that the bosses take, and it's kind of throughout different levels that take different percentages, right? Some of them have put some of these pay cuts into a little bit like a resilient fund, right? A compassion fund, and they use it to help some of the members who really need that financial help during this period of time. This is a case-by-case basis, and so if companies can develop some kind of flexibility around that to take care of the real needs of our people, to pay attention to the psychological needs of our people, right? How do you know when you reach a point of burnout? When you can tell that, number one, the quality of work is not up to par. If they've been working well, and you see that of late, they have been either the deadlines they have not been meeting it could be because of the work from home, but you just generally tell that they are a little bit more burnout, right? One way to tell is also, when you wake up every morning, what is your emotional heart set? If you used to wake up and you used to be 6 or 7, where generally emotionally you're better, but when you wake up nowadays and you feel lower, 2, 3, or 4, right, you likely know that you reach a little bit of a burnout already, right? You are likely more agitated easily by things around you, by people or situations. You find yourself losing your patience more. Generally, that's a sign of burnout. Now, you need to be careful, right? Because there's burnout and there's depression. The difference between emotions and mood is this. Emotion means I feel sad for a while, I feel upset for a while, yes. And then after the next day, I'm okay again. But when I still feel like this the next day, and the next week, I'm still feeling down, and the emotion has become a mood, you need to watch out for yourself, and you need to likely look for help. So that's one way that HR can step up to look at the more vulnerable people, and then to be able to offer intervention individually to some of them. Yeah. So that is, and also to reach and to answer the point of the burnout line.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, so due to the limited time that we have, we will have one last question. Okay, so this question, sorry. Okay, we've always said that it is no longer business as usual. So, but now we are in phase 2, people's behavior is not reflecting such changes. So how, this attendee asks, how do you make people realize and start making changes?
Wow. This is the $1 million question, right? You always say that there's no business behavior. So this is a mindset issue, isn't it? Yeah, this is a mindset change issue. There is no one simple answer. How do you make people realize and start making, if they haven't already woken up, right, in this period of time, and in the challenge that we've gone through, then I really do not know what else they need to go through, right? Because the way the brain is transformed, the way to change people's mind, there's a saying, the older the bamboo, the harder to bend, right? So the older we go, but we know that there's neuroplasticity. So the brain can form new neurons, can think new thoughts, right? And develop new attitudes and behaviors. But the way to do it is usually, the fastest way is through trauma, right? When you traumatize someone, they can change their minds. And this whole COVID-19 has been a traumatic experience. So it is rewiring the brains of people. The other is what we call, we make the person have a near-death experience, like NDE. When people go through near-death experience, right, they suddenly wake up the idea and then they change it. So I'm not saying that as a boss, right, you induce a near-death experience for your people, but if they haven't already begin to change and shift their mind, even though we have gone through a major trauma now, remember the potential for change, the room for improvement and the potential for improvement. We're looking at someone with very little for improvement. And so sometimes we get to ask ourselves, what else can we do for this person? Yeah. So there's a limit to what we can do, I feel. Yeah, again, if I understand your situation and the background, I'm quite sure I can deliver a clearer answer to your point. Yeah, I mean, it's 4:25. Carrie, can I just take 5 more minutes because there's still 88 people here?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask them, right? Answer just some simple question, right? Is drinking coffee good or bad diet for antifragile? That's a very it really depends genetically. Some people do better with caffeine. So you're talking about caffeine. Caffeine works for some people. In fact, caffeine has shown that people who drink caffeine, right, have a better chance of delaying dementia, actually. So that's quite useful, isn't it? So, but there are some people who don't take the caffeine from coffee because it makes them more agitated. So if you take too much caffeine from coffee, it may make you more fragile because it makes you more agitated and more buzzy. So you might want to shift your caffeine fix from coffee to tea to different types of things out there that you can take to keep your level of alertness out there, right? Again, this is a general webinar, so I don't want to recommend things that may not work for the individual, but there are, teas could generally be safer, but there are many things out there that you can take to replace caffeine and make you work more productively out there. So if you're happy to just go and research and Google out there, you're going to find some support for that. Yeah. How does antifragile seem a lot different from mindfulness? Mindfulness is an important building skills towards antifragility. So antifragile is not just mindfulness mindset, it's also a heart set and also the skill set also, right? So there are 3 things in one. There was one person earlier on, I saw a Joey. Thanks, Nick. I just want to answer that maybe, right? Perhaps one of my last ones, because she was one of the first to ask a question. Thanks, Nick. I learned a lot. You spoke about helping staff to prioritize, but in Asian culture, sometimes people may not accept it well as they don't want to feel weak and they feel being looked down. So the question I'm guessing is then, right, how to help my staff ask for help, right? There's no one quick fixed answer again. It really depends on the style of leadership that you already have as a culture in your organization. So you can't change the culture overnight. But as a leader, as a manager, I feel that you have a lot of influence and authority in a person's life to be able to demonstrate that you're willing to engage in those kind of conversations. So it depends on the culture of the organization, but as a leader, yourself as a manager, sometimes you just need to ask people, get used to be asking a simple question. What do you need? What do you most need now? Just ask that question now. So you can ask them, what's on your mind? And so that's one way to ask a question. So there are 3 questions you can ask. What's on your mind? So people talk about their mind. The second question is this: what's the real challenge for you here? So when they talk about all the problems, right, you can ask them, what's the real challenge for you here? Okay. And then when they can summarize it, and then you ask them, so what do you need most here now? Can you see that when you coach them in this way, you can actually help them to see that, to pull out what is the help that they need. So as a manager, as a leader, if you can do that for our people, that would be wonderful. Yeah. So I think I've answered most of the questions. Carrie, I wonder if there's anything else you saw over there that we feel that we need to address. Right.
Yeah, I think we have answered most questions already. So, okay, so that will be the last question for this session. So thank you very much, Nick. So thank you everyone for your participation, and a big thank you to Nick for your time and valuable sharing today. So we hope that everyone has benefited a lot from this webinar. So we look forward to seeing you in our other events. So take care, stay safe, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.